How you been?
I've been good. How you?
I'm good, man. I'm glad you was able to come in today
Yeah,
and be with
definitely.
us. I know you got a lot you've been wanting to share
Yeah,
and conversations that we can have. So I just want this to be just a mutual exchange
for
conversation
sure.
and just us to, just talk as we typically would do
Right.
without all of this around here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I guess for me, I know you, but I guess for people that may watch this, may have never heard of Chino
Right.
or have heard of Chino but don't really know what he's, all of this stuff about him. So tell me who you are, where you from, and what it is that you do.
Yeah. I'm Chino. I mean, I come from West Baltimore. Um, I grew up. I've been here all my life, really. Um, and I got into riding dirt bikes when I was about 5. I was always into like pedal bikes, things like that. But I started riding dirt bikes when I was like 5. And it's so crazy because I never took dirt bikes serious.
Really?
Like I never took it serious. It was just something to do. It was like the popular thing
Hold
in
on,
the
hold on,
city.
hold on, hold on. What age did you say?
I started at 5.
You started riding at 5.
Yeah, I started riding at 5.
Yo, you got me looking because I have a son that's 10 and another one that's about to be 5.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine neither one of them on a dirt bike right now.
Yeah, that's like with pedal bikes. I was riding pedal bikes at 2 with no trainer wheels, so it was like I was always into like bikes. Like I don't know why, that was just like the thing.
Yeah.
And then I started riding dirt bikes at 5. A guy around my way named Var, he put me on my first dirt bike. It was actually my brother's dirt bike.
So I want to come back to because I want to get into that a little
Yeah.
bit more. But I want to first of all, you say you're from West Baltimore.
Yeah, West.
You didn't even say Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore.
Yeah, you've been trained well.
Yeah, for sure. They come from, we've been traveling the world and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So,
That's what's up. So
Yeah.
what was it like? What was it like growing up? I'm from East Baltimore. I went to Lake Clifton. For everybody, tell what is it like growing up in West Baltimore? What high school did you go to as well?
I went to Emerson.
You went to
I
Emerson?
graduated from Emerson.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, growing up in West Baltimore or East Baltimore, you got so many things that go on right in front of our face. The streets, the gun violence, things like that. But I think my main thing was, I wouldn't even say like being a follower or just. My main goal was like to be a leader. So I always did my own thing. Like all my friends and things like that, we all grew up together and things like that. But it just seemed like over time, as we grew up, it's like I spread it away from them because they wasn't on what I was on.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So it was things around me, like my whole family was in the streets and things like that. It took me like I won't say like forever to like get in the streets. I really got in the streets like at a late age, really. I mean, I don't like to really get into it, but I didn't glorify like the streets, come from Baltimore. That's really like what we focus on, or what we look up to. I didn't glorify it. I always was into bikes, and then like my family was into streets, so they was getting me everything. I really didn't have to go into the streets. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I went into the streets when I felt like I had to. It wasn't like a thing that I was always knew I was going to do.
So you were getting some of the same satisfaction because people that were there, like you were able to live the equivalent life to what they were doing without you having to get involved.
For sure.
That's actually depending on how people want to look at the streets and say if that's good or bad or not, but that is actually a blessing, you know what I'm saying? Because what we find is that people get into these things because they want to be accepted.
Right.
They also want financial outcomes that only could be potentially attained by the streets at that immediate satisfaction type of way. And so being able to not have to do that but still reap some of those what we identify as rewards of the streets was probably helpful for you not to get caught up in things that could have took you a different way.
Yeah, definitely. And then I started making like my own money at 14. Like I got my first sponsorship at 14. That was Monster.
At 14?
Yeah, I got my first sponsorship at 14.
Nice.
So I began to like start doing for myself and thinking myself.
I'm gonna get into these sponsorships because you just like breaking all type of records. You like you're basically like the hood Tiger Woods thing. You remember Tiger Woods? They had him on the news with a little golf club in his hand at like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
You're like the Baltimore version of the Tiger Woods with the little dirt bike videos and everything like that. Yeah. But no, honestly, so like I was saying, I've got into bike riding recently, right? I'm not riding motorbikes, so I just want to be very clear, you know what I'm saying? My life insurance policy won't allow that to happen. But during COVID, I went and purchased some pedal bikes. My kids already had some, but then we went and got a mountain bike, right? Got a few mountain bikes. And we went out and hit a a trail or two, right?
Yeah.
And so my kids like that, right? And they like riding. My son, he actually probably would. My oldest son probably would like motorbikes because it probably requires less effort in pedaling because he's a little lazy and don't want to pedal as much.
How old is he?
He's 10.
Yeah.
But then my daughter and my son, they'll pedal all day.
Right.
But like you said, you got into this at 5.
Yeah.
How did that actually happen? Because our ambition to riding bikes happened because of COVID.
Yeah.
This was something that you just picked up. Like, I guess just like typically in Baltimore, a lot of people were riding and you saw it and you liked it.
Yeah.
Is that how it happened? And if not, then explain that. And where did you get a bike? What, you got a Pee-wee? You had a Pee-wee?
I had, my first bike was actually, my first bike was a Pep Boys bike.
Okay.
Yeah. My mother, she used to like get like people, the scammers used to come through with the cards for half price. So she'd get the cars and then take me to Pep Boys and get me a bike. So we paid $500 for the cars, $1,000
for the bike.
You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. So my first bike was actually a Pep Boys bike, and then I moved on to like real bikes over time. That's like where I started at though, with a Pep Boys bike.
So what was it that drew you to it? Like you were 5 years old, you seen people come down 12 o'clock and or something? Or
I think that was just like that was always the thing in Baltimore. You know, we like the culture for like bikes and dirt bikes. So I feel like that was just like the thing, and it just grabbed my attention from seeing people around the way riding and things like that. So that's just always probably what I focused on coming up. And then I was already into pedal bikes. I mean, when you grow up, that's the first thing you get as a kid. You get a bike, you want to learn how to ride a bike. You know what I mean? So I guess I just fell in love with it and just wanted to do everything that had something to do with a bike.
So were you able to do all of these tricks that you're doing now at that young age?
For sure not. For sure not.
You were just able to stay on? Yeah,
I was just able to stay on and just really getting the fundamentals of riding. I started doing like my first wheelies at 10? I started doing my first wheelies at 10, and then by 10 I'm riding all across the whole city. So
with the big dirt bike gangs?
With the pack and stuff like that, yeah. So
was it one person that took you under his wing like, yo, I'm gonna show you how to do this?
Yeah, for sure. His name was Lips.
Oh, Lips?
Yeah, Lips.
Okay.
He really, that's who I looked up to, like riding dirt bikes. That's who I looked up to. He was like one of the nicest guys in the city riding dirt bikes and things like that. So I gravitated towards him because he had the style, he had everything, like riding dirt bikes. So, and then he was like one of the talks of the town at the time. So that's who I wanted to be like.
12 o'clock boys, right?
Yeah, no, Lips. He was
Lips,
with the 12
he was a
o'clock
part
boys.
of them, but Lips was like the leader of them.
He wasn't the leader. Wayne has always been a leader, but Lips was like one of the guys who like stood out. He was one of the young guys who just had like the best style.
Yeah.
He's had the best style.
On and off the bike.
Yeah, on and off the bike for sure.
Yeah, he a pretty fresh dude.
And that's who I like got up under. Like when I started riding like with the pack, I used to study everything that he did. Like I just wanted to get everything that he did down pack, and he started telling me what I'm doing wrong and things like that. And over time, I just got better and better.
Gotcha.
And
so as you were saying, there's a lot of people in Baltimore that ride.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like any Saturday, Sunday, through Drew Hill, everywhere.
Yeah.
You see people coming through, right? Big packs, 4-wheelers, everything. But not everybody has been able to transition and take this passion and turn it into a career of professionalism.
Right.
How did that happen for you? You say you had your first endorsement at a certain age, but talk about that then and how it's grown from there.
I mean, well, truthfully, I signed with Meek, and well, Meek came to it was so crazy because he came to Baltimore. He had a show at like Morgan, and he was asking people like, anybody know Chino? Anybody know Chino? So after the show, somebody met him at his bus, and was like, yo, I can get you in touch with him. So he gave them the number for me to call him, and when I called him, it's so crazy because he was telling me like all the stuff that he gonna do. I'm gonna help you get some money and make sure you get some money, some sponsorships and things like that. I mean, coming from where we come from, you know, we automatically like, I'm like, what do you want with me? He already on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, whatever. All right, I'm listening to him. So I remember I'm sitting in my sister's room. It's me, my brother, and my cousin. We sitting in my sister's room at the computer table. And I got the phone on speaker, and he just saying, yo, I'm gonna do this, that, and the third. And I'm like, all right, cool. So when we hung up the phone, I'm like, man, I'm telling my brother, I'm like, man, I ain't calling him no more. I don't want nothing to do with me. Like, what am I calling him for? He already on. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
They riding past right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I never called, and then I want to say probably like a week later, He like, come to Philly. I'm like, damn, come to Philly. So automatically I'm telling all my homies and things like that. So now we getting all the cars and everything ready, and we just ride to Philly with like the bikes and all that. So I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was shooting. No, this is another time. I just went to Philly that day just to ride with him. And then another time he had called me to Philly, he was shooting like I'm a Boss video. And that was the video that like everybody seen like what I could do on the bikes and things like that. It was just all over the world. After that, it was another time when he was like, I want you to come to LA. We're gonna shoot something with Young and Reckless. So I went to LA, we shot something with Young and Reckless. Now the publicity and things like that is just climbing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody realizing who I am, which I mean, people in my city already knew who I was from being like the youngest dirt bike rider and things like that and just being nice. But over time, from all that, the publicity and things like that, the Instagram, the YouTube videos and things like that, my publicity just got bigger and bigger. And the sponsors started to come around. The first one well, it wasn't a sponsorship. We had just did like a video or something with Young and Reckless. And then that video went crazy. And then after that, I think we got like a call from like Monster. They wanted to do something with me. So that deal worked out. I was with Monster for, I want to say, almost 3 years. And over time, things just started to grow. Different sponsors came aboard.
So before I ask you about like the current situation with Drench, you said you rode with Meek. Who's better on the bike, you or Meek?
Of course, me. You know, I'm the GOAT, best in the world.
So now with Dream Chasers, what is your current role, position, or just whatever there?
I mean, I'm not even. It's truthfully, I'm not even signed with Dream Chasers anymore. That was from until I turned. I was signed with Dream Chasers until I turned 18. But over time, me and Meek, we built this like crazy relationship that just wasn't even built on money. It wasn't built on what you could do for me or how we look together. Just like we built like a brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? So over time, he still was putting me in position for things, even though I wasn't signed with him. And it wasn't even about that. It was just the relationship we had built. And then I think, if I want to say, when I got shot, I think everything like died down. I stopped riding. I had moved to LA. I stopped riding, I moved to LA, and just really like fell back and just really had to figure out like how to like adjust back to like being in Baltimore, moving around and things like that, because I never been in a situation like that when I got shot. So everything, like the sponsors and everything went away, because I was just, everything just went away. I went to LA and just chilled. So I got tired of LA. It was just like, I just felt like it wasn't for me, because, you know, we come from Baltimore. It's just like, it's so hard to adjust different places. And then all my family is in Baltimore. So I'm just living in LA by myself. It just got like boring, and I just felt like I ain't want to be here no more. I wanted to be around the people who like make my days go better, and just, I'm away from everything. If an emergency or something happened, it take me a whole day to get back home. You get what I'm saying? So came back to Baltimore.
So you just was mentioned. I want to talk a little bit about some of those traumas and stuff that you were talking about. So I kind of want to just transition slightly to a little bit of mental health stuff. No, it's good, man. It's very insightful. And I'm gonna come back around to some of it still. But I thought this would be a good place, because you were just talking about being shot and stuff like that, for us to talk about mental health a little bit. So you were just talking about being in LA but wanting to come back to Baltimore, and it's like we people from Baltimore, they love it here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And some people hate it here, right? They hate it, but then they love it here, right? Yeah. And you know, it's because there's a lot of trauma that happens in Baltimore, you know.
Definitely.
You know, and it's hard to deal with, you know, and it could be a quite peculiar place to grow up in. However, I think there is a level of healing that has been coming to Baltimore, right? Or just in general in the African American community in urban cities. But I feel like the healing is slow. It's a slower process because there's been a stigma associated with like mental health and like engaging in mental health services. Do you feel like that is the case in Baltimore, and why do you feel like there's this stigma in the urban community as it relates to mental health?
Stigma meaning people won't turn to it?
Well, feeling like, when people mention mental health, it's kind of like the stigma of like, I'm not crazy, there's nothing wrong with me, or like, oh my God, I'm gonna be, labeled in a negative way that I can't never recover from, or something like that.
I would say that, like, the situation with mental health, I would say coming from Baltimore, it's just seems like we just so in the box as people. You get what I'm saying? We just so in the box. So I feel like if I wouldn't have like traveled the world, met different people, and just heard different people's stories and things like that, I feel like I would have been against it as well. You get what I'm saying? I would have been against mental health or even talking to a therapist or anything like that, just about anything, because we so guarded coming from where we come from, because we have to be, you get what I'm saying? Because everybody got different motives here. And I've been in certain situations where I know people had motives and things like that, or not even having motives, just always thinking someone do. You get what I'm saying? So we put a guard up with people thinking that everybody is out to like either do something to us, get us. My experience with the mental health situation, I had downtime with quarantine happening and things like that. I had downtime, and I also feel like, cause I felt like I also wanted to become a better person. I felt like I was holding too much in that. It was also making me like
tired.
Not even tired. I would say like I had so much tension towards a lot of things and a lot of people.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I feel like when I did like open up about it and was able to talk to my therapist, I feel like she helped me be able to like, because it wasn't even that I needed, I won't say therapy, it was like I just needed somewhere to vent to somebody that didn't know me and couldn't judge me. You get what I'm saying?
Well, that's exactly what therapy is, you know? And I think you put it in its most simplistic form, because I think that a lot of times people look at therapy and they think that it's this arduous process, or that it requires all of this, and like doctors are coming in and straight jacket and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily that. Like you just said, it's a place where I can talk vulnerably and get out what I feel to somebody that's not going to be biased, that's not going to have a motive, that's not going to be offended by whatever it is that I feel, and that also has the proper skill set to be able to help advise me about how to view things in a certain capacity.
Yeah. And then another thing I want to say too, far as like where we come from, also us not venting, that's like a problem, because we don't vent coming from where we come from, because we always like, we might be close homies, but it's like, I can't really say this to him. He gonna look at me like I'm saying some weird, I don't mean to cuss, but weird shit or something like that, or just like, he weird, or he just, you get what I'm saying? They gonna judge you automatically, like you coming to vent. You get what I'm saying? Or just tell them how you feel in the situation.
Or like you soft or something.
Or you soft. Or a situation. No, it's not that I'm soft. It's just I need to be heard at this moment. You get what I'm saying? So
it seems like you're developing a level of emotional IQ. Yeah. Because and I've gone to therapy myself and had to understand this, because I've been in the same place where it's like we're not able to express ourselves, and to say something hurt me, or I didn't like the way that happened.
Right.
Or this kind of hit me that type of way or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we keep a lot of this stuff in. Yeah. We have this rational IQ where we're able to break down situations rationally and be like, yo, but I said this and you said this and this how this happened. For sure. But we never take into consideration that emotion that something I said or did caused that person to feel. Exactly. Or what they said caused me to feel. Yo, 1 + 1 is 2 in real life. For sure. But 1 could also come with some baggage that make it, you know what I'm saying, 1.5 or 1.5. But it still equals 2, if you understand what I'm saying, you know what I mean? And I think that's what therapy allows us to do. And if we don't get that vent and we don't get those spaces, like you said, we'll be carrying around animosity, we'll be carrying around anger and feelings of tension towards people who don't even know they impacted us in a way, but we are carrying that weight around. Right. For you mentioned about being shot, right? Mm-hmm. You had a brother that was killed?
Yeah, for sure.
And then you were friends with Lil Scooter, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So and countless, I'm sure, other people that have passed in your life. So prior to therapy, because I'll come back to the therapy part, how did you actually deal with that grief and loss? Was it more so the typical hood way, we're going to pour out a little Henny and, you know what I'm saying, we're going to smoke a L and then we're going to call it a day?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to get it tatted and that's how we deal with it. But how did you deal with this prior to therapy?
I wouldn't even say I haven't dealt with it yet. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't dealt with none of it. Yeah, that's just honest. Like I haven't dealt with none of it yet just because I don't want it to put me in a bad space. You get what I'm saying? Coming from where we come from, we block a lot of things out. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just really block it out like it don't exist. Not even like it don't exist, just like I try not to think about what happened or how it happened or I just don't want it to put me in a bad space of like just being down. Because I always try to like keep like a smile on my face and just try to be like.
I got a question for you about that though, right? Do you ever get times of just like over ecstaticness and just like overjoy? Or do you kind of feel like even your joy is kind of like limited on to how happy you allow yourself to be as well?
I feel like I show like too much joy.
Sometimes?
Even when I'm in like a bad space, I'm still smiling and things like that. Just being like, I would say like, I'm not the most popular person, but just being in like the public eye or stuff like that. Just I always try to like keep like a smile on my face or just always show people that I'm happy because people, they look to you for like motivation and things like that. So I just feel like I'm put in certain situations to act a certain way for people.
So what I will say, and I don't want to get into it now, but one thing you may want to, is that Chino the brand and the persona, or is that Chino the individual that actually feels that excited? Because as Chino the brand, and I've struggled with this as well, I'm around people, I'm excited, I'll have to be a certain way, and I feed off of people's energy, right?
Yeah.
But then when I'm not in that same space, I drop. You know what I mean? My normal level is a lot lower than that, typically. And the reason why I ask that is because sometimes you find that when people, that is your body's natural reaction to block trauma, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's almost like if you break your arm, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like the body and the emotional system is separating itself from the trauma. Right. So sometimes you could probably ask you what happened in that traumatic moment and they can't give you all the details because they've blocked that, right? But also what you find with that at times is that you also see those same people might not go as high and get to experience the greatest excitements because that same thing that allows you to feel that level of excitement, it also will open you up and make you vulnerable to that level of deepness of grief and loss, whatever that may be as well. So that was just something I was wondering because of my personal experiences. But let's just tune it back a little bit because I don't want this to become a therapy session. I also want to ask this. I'm going to ask some of these questions, not just for you, but for people who look at you and see you as an influencer and see you as somebody that they aspire to be like. You know what I'm saying? Prior to, you mentioned that you're engaged in therapy, and I'm not going to ask a bunch of questions about that because this isn't a exploitative conversation. Like, I really want your therapy experience to be your experience and maintain confidentiality and HIPAA and all that other stuff, But what I want to ask is kind of, what were your feelings prior to therapy and if you had any apprehensiveness? And then I'm going to ask you what allowed you to get past that, and then I'm going to ask you what was like your first therapy session actually like?
I mean, before therapy,
were you opposed to it?
Like, did I want to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because I wanted to do it. You know what I'm saying? I came in a space of like, I wanted to do it, but it was if I also I thought about like if I want to say this to somebody?
Yeah, if I want to open myself
up. If I want to open up to just period, like my team or anybody, and just tell them that I want to do therapy. You get what I'm saying? Because they might look at me a certain way too, but no, they don't look at me a certain way. You get what I'm saying? But I felt like the universe worked like in a crazy type of way by you reaching out and just in that whole situation with the mental health situation, and just I felt like that I felt like it gravitated towards me. Yeah. So I felt like it was the time.
And I will say you do have a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
I know that before the teams, we were just in a lot of the same places and just having conversations, just sharing good time. And I just felt like, I should let you know what I do. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we can have some conversations or work together to help the community in some capacity. And I must admit, man, from the time I mentioned it, you've been completely it's probably going on. This is way before COVID, you know what I'm saying?
Way before COVID.
Yeah, so this, it's been happening. You've been supportive. But what I've liked is that your team has been like, hey, this is what Chino wants to do. We want to put him in a place to be able to do this.
Right.
And they're not just like, hey, this person, they're vetting the situations in a place to make sure that it's safe and reliable space. So you didn't have the apprehensiveness to want to get started. So, but you just had apprehensive of if I want to share that I want to get started.
Right.
What was it that allowed you to now say, you know what, forget all that. I need to say something so I can get started.
Cause I felt like it was like dwelling on me really. Like it would be days where I don't even want to I don't want to be bothered with nobody. You get what I'm saying? Like just down and just in certain positions of like being like depressed about nothing when you got everything, not everything you want, but you okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like being in certain situations, I just felt like depressed with certain things, and just also like a big thing with me is I think that take a toll on me is like reassurance. You know what I'm saying? Not getting reassurance from people around you, and you just always being the one for like most things.
The need.
The need, I would say the need, and just things, period. And I'm not even speaking like on money or no things like that, but just you being a person or being in the eye, everybody thinking you okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody asks you like how
Have
your
you checked
day
on
is.
Your strong friend recently?
Exactly.
The person that seems to got it together is the person that actually needs the...
No, for real. We the ones who really go through the most. It looked like we just good, but I go through a lot. You know what I'm saying? And I don't talk to nobody or just say it to nobody or nothing like that, because I don't want them to look at me a certain way when really this is really how I feel. I shouldn't care how they look at me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And the more you accomplish is the more nuances and things you're taking on, more relationships, more you're putting yourself out there to potentially something happening, not necessarily in a negative way, just this deal happening, but then it doesn't, then I'm let down or just whatever, you know what I'm saying? Definitely. So I completely get that, and I see why that would make you say, you know what, this is enough. I need to be able to. So what I want to do now is, speaking of conversations and mental health and therapists, I want to. This is not your therapist, obviously, but I just want to make that known for everyone that's watching. I want to bring on BTST's head therapist, and she's the head therapist because she's our executive director, my business partner, Jada McCray, to come join the conversation and have a little conversation about, for her to shed some light on her experiences as a therapist in Baltimore and stuff.
Hey, Chris.
Thank you for joining us.
I try.
I feel like my conversations always go easier. Like you're my crutch. I almost use you as my crutch to. My conversations are always cool, but then when you join, they can be like.
Oh goodness! You said I elevate.
Yes.
I take that.
So, we've just been having conversations with Chino, talking about his experience in Baltimore growing up, just mental health and everything. Prior to handling all clinical operations for this wonderful organization, you were also a therapist. Mm-hmm. Before I get into just some of your understanding, just speak about your background in mental health.
Well, can we say, before we even talk about me being a therapist, I'm from Baltimore too.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't add the T, I said Baltimore.
He said it appropriately. He said it professionally.
Yeah, he said it professionally. No, go ahead.
I don't know how, I swear, for some reason, I don't say Baltimore no more.
He probably says dog now as well.
No, I don't say Doug. I say Doug, but because it just be like when we other places, like they be like, "What you say?" Baltimore, Baltimore.
Yeah. It depends on who you're around. If I'm with my family, I just slip into it, the accent really quickly. But no, I think that's important to state, because if you don't know the history of Baltimore and you don't understand the people and the places and all that we've been through in Baltimore, you will never understand why I decided to be a therapist. I decided to be a therapist because my family, like so many other families in Baltimore, we've experienced tremendous loss
Right.
through the violence that we have here.
Mhm.
We've tremendous loss through substance abuse and use. And so even though I'm a therapist, my family's experienced dysfunction too.
Right.
So a lot of the things that you talk about not being able to fully express yourself and not being able to fully grieve and share how you feel, I've experienced those things as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people who have not experienced those things. And that led me on a journey. I knew I wanted things to be different. I knew I wanted to feel differently. And I knew I wanted to help other people to be able to overcome too. And that just led me down this path. And to better understand myself, you know, you take the psych classes in undergrad and then it turns on the light and here I am.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
I try.
We greatly appreciate it. But no, honestly, so you were working in some of the same. Chino was from West Baltimore.
Yeah.
We're from East Baltimore. You're from Greenmount.
Yeah.
So you worked in a lot of these communities, whether when your time at DSS and in your time as a therapist. Speak to some of the traumas that are impacting these neighborhoods and how that impacts someone like Chino or, you know, someone that looks up to him's mental health.
I think that we need to understand, or America needs to understand, when they look at Baltimore and they say horrible things about our community, first of all, how much we love it, and it is home. And no matter where you travel, you come back to your home. When you see refugees and they go other places, what they want more than anything is to be back at home. They just want their home to be a stable place. And you'll find the same thing in Baltimore. We just want it to be safe here. I've worked in West Baltimore. I've worked in East Baltimore. When the Freddie Gray riots happened, one of the reasons why I'm here with Chris now at BTST is because I worked at another place where when the Freddie Gray riots were happening, I walked into the director's office and her son was there, and he looked at the TV was on and he said, "There go those people again." To my shock and horror, I am those people.
Exactly.
These are people that we help every single day, and you don't understand that they're people.
Right.
They're those people. And so I realized that the commitment has to be there to help my people, to help our people, people that look like us, because I realized that a lot of people don't view us as people. And so when crimes happen and murders happen and we experience all of this trauma, they don't realize that just because if you see a black face on TV that's been killed, there's a mother, there's a brother, there's a cousin, there's a best friend, a person up the block that's grieving that loss.
Definitely.
And so whether you see poverty in Baltimore, you see crime in Baltimore, understand that there are people who live in Baltimore every single day that call it home and need the help and need the healing. So my position here, and it has always been, to make sure that we ensure healing for our people.
Yeah.
And we've got to better understand ourselves and understand the trauma that we're experiencing. Because we'll look up, like you said earlier, you don't want people to think about you a certain way or look a certain way, because in this city, you realize that you have to kind of suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
You don't get to feel it. You don't get to express it.
I think that was my biggest thing too. I think I was to a point where it's like I'm tired of being a certain way for people.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
That
Yes.
isn't beneficial to you.
Yes.
That ain't beneficial
Yes.
to me. It's like I'm being a certain way or just trying to be this person for people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
It will eat you alive.
For sure.
It will eat
For
you
sure.
alive.
Speaking of, what you about to finish?
Yeah, and when he was talking earlier about how he has to, about his experiences and feeling like he has to be happy and be the one, and how he has to stuff that down. And he said he hasn't. You said you haven't really approached it yet. I thought about the image of the boogeyman. You turn off the lights and the boogeyman is under the bed, just waiting to hop out at any moment.
Right.
And that's how trauma is. If we don't address trauma, and like you were saying, Chris, connect the head and the heart, and really understand what happened to us, go through that and grieve that experience,
Right.
then we begin to express it in a myriad of other ways too. We drink too much, hypersexualization, fighting, crime, all of those things, because you buried that pain so deep inside of yourself, and it's the boogeyman waiting to jump out.
Right.
And so unless we resolve that and pull it out, shed light on it a little bit at a time, and heal it a little bit at a time, it will eat you up and eat those around you up as well.
That was wonderfully put.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure.
I feel like I'm in therapy right now. I got something. So, like you said, like Chino has said, like he's grown, he's a brand, he's getting to experience parts of life that only some could dream of. You know?
Right.
And he's in music videos.
Yeah.
He's traveling here. He's getting to explore the whole world. So for someone who's, having that much success, also comes with pressure, right? And I know for you, the successes that we have, I go to you as well for some clinical just talk down. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna call it a therapy session. But
No, because I would charge you. Like,
do a relationship. But no, just for some clinical talk down, right?
Yeah.
To deal with some of the pressures that I experience, and I know my pressures aren't or significantly different than some of the stuff Chino feels. Speak to about how the pressure of success can weigh on your mental health as well.
it can be so difficult because for two things. If you are the most successful person in your group, you have now become a unicorn in a field full of horses. And that can be so much to have to deal with and internalize. So you have to think about who am I inside versus who other people decide that I am. And separate those two things. Who is Chino? What does he love? What does he like? It's amazing because when I talk to people and we do therapy and we have sessions, some of the first things I try to get some background information about you, your family. What do you like? What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy? What brings you happiness? What brings you sadness? And you will be so surprised how many people don't understand those very basic foundational things about themselves. And it's difficult for you to pull it out. And so for you, I would say, spend some time with yourself. Better get to know you better, get to understand you better. And also your relationships with people. Identify what's your internal dialogue. What's the difference between the voice in your head and the outside voices to try to get in your head? If you think a certain way, try to explore for yourself in your downtime. Why do I believe that to be so? What are the influences? What are the experiences that I've had that have influenced this? What's going on right now that's influencing this? Because who is Chino? You know, I know that for me, Jada McCrae, executive director at BTST, isn't always the same Jada McCrae that's home with her family. You know what I mean? Or Lex, my sister's always like, people don't know how funny you are. And I'm like, and they shouldn't. But you know, you know, but people don't, but not everybody's privy to that side of you. So while you're exploring yourself, surround yourself with people who are in similar places and beyond where you are in your journey. You know, and if you have people where you're the anchor for them and you have to be the anchor, find somebody who's an anchor for you as well. And there's no problem with that.
Found that yet.
It'll come. It'll come.
So Jada, for people who are watching and this is like their first experience with a therapist, I think this is a remarkable one. But speak to them about why therapy is important and what should they expect about engaging in therapy?
For everything that Chino said. Everything that Chino said. I think that people look at therapists and they think that we're all Sigmund Freud. We're really not. We're real people who have had real experiences and a whole lot of education and training to support where we are right now. And so the first conversation should feel like a conversation. You should be at ease. You should be made to feel relaxed. You should. And we also are very supportive of knowing that if you're in our office, it took a lot for you to get there and be very respectful of that. But also understanding that having a therapist or a therapeutic client relationship is like two people falling in love. I have dated people before my husband. He was a great guy. He wasn't the one for me. So the same is true with therapy. You might have a great therapist that just may not be the right fit for you. So it's the two right people, for right place, right time to form that connection and form that supportive relationship. But more than anything, a lot of it is us helping you to understand who you are inside. All of us have coping strategies. So we just want to piece apart the coping strategies that you use that are successful, supply you with more, and maybe address the ones that have not been and are harmful and are maladaptive for you. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. She
steals my clinical. I don't use a bunch of clinical terminology all the time, but maladaptive is one of them.
It's an inside joke. We got to throw it in there sometimes.
They think that's the only clinical word I know.
That's the only one he got.
But Jada, I want to conclude with you. This has been awesome. If you had to give a piece of advice, if you had to give just another piece of advice for Chino and those watching, what would it be?
Peace doesn't always come easy. And so when people say that they're warriors for peace, it doesn't mean that you're a pacifist. What it means is that you have to fight every day for your peace of mind. And whatever you have to do to get your peace of mind, you better fight like hell for it because it's yours.
Thank you, Jada.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. So you got to experience Jada, phenomenal person, right?
For sure.
And that's why I'm so excited about our program here. You know, with her at the helm, heading up our clinical direction, I know our program will consistently be strong and headed in the right direction to help a lot of people. But I want to talk about how you've been helping yourself prior to therapy and still, right? you've used dirt bike riding as your outlet. He's taking off the glasses, and now we talking his language now. He's no longer uncomfortable. We had to get the shades off for the tricky stuff now. Now we good. So you've used dirt bike. You've gone around the world with it. You've been featured and all this other stuff. But you've also used this as your outlet, right? Talk to me about what dirt bike riding or motorbike riding has done for you that allow your outlet as for respite or mental health.
Dirt bike ride for me. That's like the only, before therapy. That was like my therapy. You get what I'm saying? So when I ride and things like that, it just allowed me to just like feel free. I don't have to deal with nothing. I ain't dealing with no phones or nothing like that. I'm just riding.
Even though you probably could ride with a phone.
Yeah, for sure. Do it all the time, but it's just like I'm not worried about what's going on or nothing. I'm just worried about riding this bike and just enjoying myself, having a nice time, and it just allowed me to feel free and just feel like nothing nothing can stop me, or just I can't be bothered at the time. You get what I'm saying? Because it's like I'm doing something that I love to do, and it also brings me excitement, and it relieves stress too as well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For sure.
And you've experienced this and been able to enjoy that. Do you feel like that's why a lot of kids in Baltimore like to ride, like not knowing it subconsciously, they like the coolness of it, but what it does for you, maybe it does for them?
See, I can't really speak on that because everybody who ride has a different reason for ride. You get what I'm saying? So I would say, and asking that question, I really don't know if they have like the same feeling that I have with riding bikes. You get what I'm saying? Because I know my feeling is something that I love to do, and I also know what it do for me as a person. You get what I'm saying? So it just, like I said, it make me feel free, and that's what I love to do.
So more so, what do you feel like not only our city, but just America could do to embrace bike riding for kids in the urban community?
I feel like they should look into the urban community dirt bike sport more. You get what I'm saying? Because it's definitely a sport. That's why I'm never going to downplay it and say it's not a sport. It's not motocross, but it's a sport. It's our sport. It's our urban sport. So I just feel like they haven't tapped into it yet. I feel like they need to tap into it, and it could bring in some real revenue, because like me, I do shows all across the world and things like that for doing what I do and what I've learned here in Baltimore. You get what I'm saying?
What you do for fun here, yeah.
Exactly. They book me for shows and things like that on different islands and different cities and states. So I feel like if they putting these events together and paying me the type of money that they paying me for the events, how can it not be a sport?
Yeah, and it could create economic opportunities for other people in places where they're not seeing opportunity, or school doesn't align for them and all that other stuff. And then it could also provide respite and mental wellness, as you said it does for you.
And then also, like, coming from Baltimore now, you know, kids are always going to say they want to be a basketball player, football player, or doctor. But now within that whole category they adding in, they want to be a dirt bike rider as well now. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just like they looking at that as a sport because they see like what I've did with it. You get what I'm saying? So how can we not? How can we not open up more doors for the urban community? And you know what I'm saying? Because that's like my main goal. I want to see people in the urban community and where I come from make it off riding dirt bikes, because I did it. I haven't made it where I want to be yet, but becoming successful off of it.
So speaking of opening doors and opportunities for it, you have this film that was coming out. That's still coming out. It's coming out pre-COVID.
Yeah.
It was coming out right before that, and then COVID happened. Called Charm City Kings, right?
Charm City Kings.
So obviously it's based in Baltimore.
Based in Baltimore, about just Baltimore culture, really. Baltimore culture and dirt bikes too. You know, that's basically culture when you say Baltimore. So
talk to me about your character and how this whole opportunity came about.
My character, I'm the villain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm the villain in there. So it's like it's this kid Mouse. It's this kid Mouse. He like into pets and things like that, but he want to get down with my clique. But he got his big homie Blacks, who's like who's trying to keep him on the right track, and I'm trying to make him.
You're the negative influence.
I'm the negative influence, trying to get him to be on the bad track. So, but Black's keeping him on the right track and things like that, and he want to be in the streets, but Black's just keeping him out of the streets and things like that, and not to get too deep into it, you know, storylines and things like that, but
people still got to pay to come see it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But it's definitely going to be a great movie, and I think it shines a lot of light on Baltimore culture, dirt bike riding, and just the urban community. Period. You know what I'm saying? It definitely gives you an inside look if you've never seen Baltimore. I feel like that movie, it shows 90% of Baltimore. I wouldn't say 100 because, you know, it's things that people don't even know about or see within Baltimore, but I feel like it shines a great light on Baltimore, and I feel like people would understand the movie and understand Baltimore and just urban culture.
That's awesome, man, and I can't wait to see it when it comes out. Hopefully this COVID stuff will be past that soon. But I know you guys started some press, and then it was like brought to a halt.
Yeah.
You've been planning, you've been studying for your role and then now you feel like you're about to be able to deliver this to the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it gets stopped. How did that impact? Did that impact you at all?
For sure. With the movie being like put on hold because of COVID, that was like, I felt at the beginning, I felt like, damn, everything I worked for is just like over with.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because like it's put on hold and it's supposed to come out while this is still going on, but it's not coming out no more. So, and then they shut the movie theaters down and things like that, and then they wound up having to sell a movie to HBO Max.
Oh, really?
For it to be, it's gonna come on television now because they sold the HBO Max. So they're gonna.
Oh, instead of going to theaters, because there's no chance.
Theaters,
you never know when theaters gonna open.
Theaters are gonna open. So when I heard that, I'm like, is the movie gonna be as big?
Yeah.
But truthfully, my opinion, I think the
maybe
movie probably would be even more bigger now that it's going to be all across the world. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be accessible to everybody now.
Yeah, for sure. Because
people watch Netflix all the time now, so being able to be streamed on HBO. Now people don't have to leave their home. They could be in their COVID sweatpants and their T-shirt and still watch the same thing.
I'm in the mindset of like, I hope COVID's still going on, just so everybody can see it.
They don't have nowhere to go. You gotta focus on this.
For sure, because you know when we not in lockdown no more, you know, we like being out. We like traveling the world. That's just people, period. Like being out on the scene and traveling the world and things like that. We really ain't turning to TV. You know what I'm saying? We go to the movies because this is the new popular movie that's being broadcast and promoted all across the world and things like that. But so I'm like in the mindset of like, I hope COVID's still going on in that situation.
Well, I know. Just to clarify, I know what you mean because I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. Not because of the impacts of the deaths and stuff like that, people being sick.
For sure,
and obviously for that. But just because COVID has created, we're able to be at home and focus on what's important.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that a lot of this Black Lives Matter stuff wouldn't be hitting as hard if COVID wasn't happening.
Right.
Not to say that it shouldn't. I mean, we have a Black Lives Mirror that we're doing this week. You know, I'm all for it. But I think that the difference between this and something else is that people weren't preoccupied anymore.
Right.
You know, like when other murders and things happen, people were still going to work.
Yeah.
That all this was still happening. They were still caught up in the hustle and bustle of their day. Mm-hmm. So there was a certain amount of, you know, innocent ignorance, I will call it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for this everything was at a halt.
It was able to focus.
Full focus, and everything was able to happen from there.
Yeah, for sure.
To kind of conclude a lot of this, right?
Yeah.
You've talked about growing up. You've talked about your growth, your experiences.
Right.
You putting yourself a priority and dealing and wanting to be mentally well and stuff like that. A lot of your successes and stuff like that. There are a lot of people that watch Chino, that follow you and all that other stuff. Yeah. If you had to give some advice to the people that are watching you, what would that be?
I mean, overall, I would say it's just like, it's really not really much to say. My main thing that I would say to like kids or just people who look up to me, period, is don't stop caring what others think. Like, stop caring what others think of you, because I feel like caring what other people think of you is just going to put you in a space of trying to be this way or be just be a certain way for people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People who don't even know you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it might sound crazy, but I feel like nobody knows you.
Yeah.
You know you're the only person that know you. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like, you know yourself. So you're going to deal with things and how you want to deal with it. It don't have to be accepted by everybody. And I was in a situation where I felt like I had to walk like a straight line. I had to do this, that, and the third just to be accepted by everybody when everybody ain't even going to accept me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why do I care? I feel like that was like one of the things that was like dwelling on me the most, trying to walk a straight line or this, that, and the third. I got to be a certain way for this people so this person could like me or this, that, and the third. Who cares?
And it still ain't gonna be enough.
But I still think I still didn't overcome it yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I still put myself in that space of doing that, but I feel like I'm getting better with it.
I think that's one of the greatest things that you said thus far, was that this thing, as we try to grow in our mental wellness and understanding of ourselves and just our situations, there's not like today I started zero and tomorrow I accomplished it.
Exactly.
It's an ever-changing thing. You know, you're going to be consistently on a road to improvement.
Right.
And we have to understand it's a process, you know what I'm saying? And we can't get down on ourselves that we're maybe not where we want to be. But the biggest thing that we can do is be cautious and mindful that this is still a goal and understand that I'm still doing this, but I'm working actively to improve it.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
So let's have some fun real quick to conclude this, all right? So this thing, what I like to do is call it rapid fire. So we're going to have a little Baltimore rapid fire, right? All right. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then you tell me the thing that comes to your mind, all right?
Yeah.
All right, so and it's going to be based around Baltimore. So, best place to get a chicken box?
KK's.
Okay. Favorite player on the Ravens?
Lamar Jackson.
Ravens or Orioles, I should have said. More football, baseball guy?
Football.
Okay. Favorite restaurant in Baltimore?
Pepper Flame.
Okay. Best place to get crabs?
I would say, it's not here no more, but Dockside.
Dockside?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I used to be Bo Brooks guy, but Dockside right there, yeah. Favorite bike to ride?
My favorite bike to ride, 450.
Okay. Favorite place to ride in Baltimore?
All through the city, really. Yeah.
What was a better show, The Wire or The Corner?
The Corner was before my time, so I'm going to say The Wire.
And my last question for Baltimore, which is the movie that everybody should watch that's based on Baltimore about dirt bike riding when it comes out?
Charm City Kings.
With my guy Chino.
For sure.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
It's been a helpful, great conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate it.